Without the moral law, nothing matters. We're living in a culture that is increasingly hostile to God, and yet it desperately clings to moral claims. Let me be very clear and lay the foundation for today's talk. If there is no God, there is no moral law. And if there is no moral law, then there are no moral rights. You're going to hear people that are in today's that are arguing for abortion. They're arguing for same-sex marriage. They're arguing for so-called gender rights. And they do so with big, moral passion. But on what basis? If they reject God, they reject the only possible foundation for objective moral truth. Without the creator, there's no design. Without the design, there's no purpose. And without the purpose, there's no right or wrong. It's just preference. And here's the irony. By rejecting the moral law that makes moral reasoning possible, these people have undermined their ability to argue for anything. You can't claim that something is right or wrong in a world where nothing is objectively right or wrong. And, let's think about it. Romans 2, it tells us that the law of God is written on our hearts. Think of when people do something that's quote unquote wrong, right? They make excuses. People make excuses for bad behavior because they know somewhere deep down that some things are right and some things are wrong. Excuses are not evidence of moral freedom, they're evidence of moral guilt. Why do people feel like they have to justify immorality? Because they feel the weight of the law of God pressing on their conscience. You don't justify things that you think are neutral. You justify things you know are wrong. Even tolerance. Perhaps one of what today would consider the greatest virtues of our culture. That even tolerance betrays this truth. You must be tolerant, you'll hear people say. That assumes that tolerance is morally good. It's the right thing to do. But that's a moral judgment. And without God's law, they have no ground to even make that judgment. Listen, God's moral law, it's not arbitrary. It is a reflection of his holy nature. It defines good and evil. And it's the very foundation of human rights, of justice, and of truth. And without it, you're left with chaos. So when you have that, there's order, there's accountability, and there's hope. People today, they want justice. People today, they want liberty. People today, they want human dignity. Then you have to start with God. Because without him, none of those things exist, not in any meaningful way. So the next time you hear someone demand some right, ask them, where's that come from? If it's not from God, then it's just preference. And no one, not you, not me, is morally obligated to obey a preference. It's just not. But if the moral law is real, and it is, then we are all accountable. And that's why we have to proclaim not only the law, but the gospel of grace that fulfills it in Jesus Christ. And that is my talk for you today. I hope you got value out of that. Hope that makes you think and see things from a more enlightened perspective. All right, so we'll see you next time. God bless and talk soon. Bye.